So I guess I don't know how to introduce it. I can't call all the accolades, but here's Carey.
Well, obviously, hi everybody. Obviously, you ran out of speakers, and that is okay. No, not you. Well, can I ask a question? I know most of you. Okay, I know most of you. I don't know. Is there anyone? There's some faces that are vaguely familiar. I mean, I said hello. Does everybody know who I am? I mean, besides the most wanted stuff.
Oh, no. Eileen watching via Zoom doesn't.
Oh, hi, Eileen. Oh, I gotta. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, so if you introduce yourself, please.
I will. My name is Carey Eidel, and I am one of the founders and the executive director of Auburn Public Theater, where we're having our meeting right now. And are you familiar with Auburn Public Theater?
Been there lots.
Oh, okay. So I'll just say goodbye. Thanks so much. It's the visual on the Zoom.
Okay.
So anyway, as you could tell, I actually, one of the things I've done in my life is I was a stand-up comedian in New York City for the beginning of my career. And all of the people I started out with are now famous, and I serve you lunch. So it's going really well.
I'm sure they're very thankful for your.
They are. Actually, I had one casting agent who asked me for my phone number, and I said, oh, that's great. She said, no, I want to keep it by the phone so I don't call you by mistake. So that's kind of, by the way, self-deprecating humor is some of the best humor. But anyway, thank you. First of all, we're so grateful that you're here. And again, many of you know the history of Auburn Public Theater and know where we came from. I will say briefly some things because I know that there are perhaps some people online or here who don't know all the facts, but we're in Grant's department store that was built in 1954 by the Schwartz family for the department store. And I guess that was thriving in a downtown that was, it's coming back. And those of you who were growing up here remember how thriving it was, and urban renewal, the arterial, and just progress kind of circumvented the town. So we're, for the last 16 years, we've been here in this building renovating it. This side and the main stage was Paul's Pocket Billiards, if some of you remember that. And the other side was a rent-a-center, and before that it was the unemployment office of New York State.
Went there.
There you go. And then the downstairs became a nightclub after it had the pets for grants. It became Cagney's and then Club 21 for you growing up here. But since the 70s, no one's been downstairs. So I know this is thrilling to many of you from Auburn, but when I was cleaning up last year, I found a great pennant for the Auburn Astros, an original pennant, which I have, and I can be bribed, but that's on my wall. But when we were renovating our studio upstairs, Brian Anderson, who was kind of the head guy, he took off just a little false wall up there where I guess they had the counter for grants, a live electrical panel. I'm talking from the 70s. It was live behind a wall. Whoever did it, I'm guessing in the state of New York, they just went right over it. They'd never did anything. So every time we remove a layer from the building, there's always something fascinating that we find, and there's a great history. And I don't know if anyone has seen the plaques on the side of the building, but this is where Bostwick's Tavern and it was at the Genesee Hotel or the Western Hotel, Exchange Hotel was on this spot. And I think that the fellow that William Seward defended with the first insanity plea was a janitor in this building. So if you go downstairs, you'll get some creepy vibes. But it has a rich history, and with this town, as far as now, I didn't grow up here, but what I had read was that you had the Hardenbergs and the Bostwicks, and they were wealthy, and they bought the land rights to the people who fought in the Civil War, who when the war was over, who settled here. So they bought the land rights because those people needed money. And they divided the town based, I think, on the outlet. So this was Boswick side, and then there was Hardenburg side. So that's kind of what I had gleaned from reading a little bit of history. And this is a labor of love. We focus on 4 things here. Obviously, many of you have been to our live performances. So we do professional presenting and producing. We have on our main stage and in this space, and actually in all the spaces. And then in our cinema, we have independent cinema that we do. And then we do our youth education classes, which are thriving, and we offer them this year. It's all pay what you can. So we're at Booker T. Washington and 5 Auburn schools in the after school program. Everything is free for the kids. And then we do it in-house, and we're associated now with a fellow wonderful guy who runs our program, who we do a lot of co-productions with, is Jim Van Arsdale of Perform for Purpose. So our little Exchange Street Records students grow up and they become part of Perform for Purpose. And it's a great through line. And in our film classes, we're associated, I teach film and screenwriting and all this kind of stuff at the college. And I'm associated, obviously, with the telecommunications department. So Steve Keeler and I work together on a number of initiatives, but one of them is teaching middle school and up filmmaking, but not only to make a film as a creative person, but to learn the production aspect of it, because we want to create a concentration at the college where they can study film production. And there's a thriving film community in Syracuse. I sit on the board of the film commission that funds films, and if they use local people, they get a certain amount of their budget funded through the Syracuse, film fund. So there's really a nice trajectory in exposing young people to the arts in the way that they want, and then possibly having work and staying in the area. So that's kind of really a nice thing for us. And we also, I know I throw a lot at you, but Steve and I and John Rossi, and then there was a head of the fire department who retired, and I can't remember his name. It took us 10 years to form Auburn Regional Media Access, which is your public cable access television station. And we built a studio in the basement, thanks to the Emerson Foundation. And it's available for free to anyone in Auburn. It has a green screen, and James, who was part of our recovery program over at Grace House, he graduated, we've trained him. Now he's the manager, earning a good salary or part-time salary as our manager downstairs. And any Auburn resident could submit something, whether they make it here or not, to be put on channel 12 and channel 31, maybe, depending. Verizon's one, Time Warner's the other. And again, another creative opportunity. And we have some great people on the board that we try to get to young people to get producers, because you've got a huge editing system and beautiful cameras and a green screen. It's all there. So, for example, in the summer, we're going to a younger population at Booker T, and we're going to just focus on TikTok videos, because that's what they want to do. So not only can we show them how to make it, but we can show them tips to make them better, and then how to edit them. So we have a lot of young instructors. Some of them were my students at the college who are in the area with film degrees, and they have joined our team, and they get paid. It's $30 an hour. It's not bad for somebody to teach, and we get grants from, we just got one from the John Ben Snow Foundation and the M&T Charitable Trust and the Delavan Foundation, the Community Foundation. Has anyone ever heard, this is an older crowd, but some of you have heard of the band Fish? Okay, so they were formed at college, and this guy comes in, and he's like this, and he comes in and he kind of talks like this, and he's like, yeah, I really like what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you very much. I said, what's your name? Leonard Fishman. And I don't know if you know, my son was at college, and he formed the band, and then we thought of a name, and we just shortened my name to Fish. I'm like, yeah, I think so. Literally, they're like the Beatles. I mean, if for the older people, it was the Grateful Dead and Fish. I said, could we get them here? He goes, you don't want them here because you couldn't fit them. You get 50,000 people here. So I said, but what about your son? You know, he could come, he's a drummer. He could come do a workshop or something. So we're working on it. He gives us $1,000 a year for instruments for the kids. And just yesterday, and I wish I could project it, but I took a picture. Jim Van Arten, we bought 18 new ukuleles, which we just delivered. They're distributing today at the schools. Everybody in our after-school program who makes it through gets their own new ukulele, so they can continue studying. And Leonard, you know, Leonard was the one, you know, who gives us the through the Fish Foundation. He gives us money for instruments. It started about 2 years ago, and he's really thrilled about it. And then the final thing after the education and the performance and the cinema is community. And you're part of it, where we either donate our space, and I don't know if you know what's happening, but there are 40 people in the main stage. Well, right now they're on lunch, but yesterday, today, and tomorrow, there are 40 people from law enforcement and from the city and from the fire department and everybody who interacts, you know, with the community on a policing and a supervisory level to learn about diversity training. So they're there for 8 hours. It's almost like if you get a ticket and you have to take the driving course. But they're there for 8 hours, and you know, it's a great speaker. This guy who's a big Rotarian in Rochester, he was really thrilled that you were here. And that's happening over there. We're donating our space, right? And here you guys are very generous. You make a donation, but you know, we're happy to have you here. And so we make deals with I guess it's called Mosaic now. It used to be the ARC. They come in to see a movie or karaoke, and we had 3 or 4 different dance companies here over the last month or two, and they were so disappointed because they all bought their costumes and they trained, but they couldn't get together. So they come in small groups and they can perform their shows. They don't have to be on a bigger stage because they have to be in small groups. And then we film them. I think Mary Jo just at what's the name of her studio? I can't remember. Mary Jo Pelt. Anyway, they just premiered it at the drive-in, so our parents could go and see them. And we just, you know, we donated the space. Obviously, we work with Tomato Fest and all that. There's something that you may not know, is that since 2011, we have been a re-grantor. So we work with New York State, and we give out $90,000 a year over 5 counties, from here to Rochester, to small organizations and artists that wouldn't normally apply directly to the New York State Council on the Arts. And we started out like that. Most small organizations start out, 5,000 is the max. But after we started to get it for 4 or 5 years, New York State recognized what we were trying to do and the town and everything. And when the Phelps Art Center kind of imploded, they came to us and said, would you like to do this program? And we said, sure. So we have done it since 2011. So this is our 10th year. And Janie McClear, who is at the counter, because that's what we have to do right now, she is the coordinator. So part of her salary is paid through New York State, the administrative part. And we give out, I think this year was a little lighter, obviously. But yeah, we gave out, they just had their meeting in here last week, and we're going to be writing checks for $90,000 next week. So that's really thrilling. And then when Senator John DeFrancisco was here, he had a fund. He loved music. He's a big music guy, big jazz guy, and he would give a lot of money to Syracuse. So we kind of talked to him a while back, about 4 or 5 years ago, and we said, well, what about us? Because you represent us now. So he gave us 60 grand, and we funded Major Palooza and Tomato Fest. A lot of times you don't know that we fund these people, but we gave out $45,000 a year to other organizations to do their community events. And then, I said, well, I'll only do it. He goes, it's all for events. And I said, he said, yes. And I said, well, what's in it for me? And he goes, well, I don't know. And I said, well, here's what I think you can do. Why don't you give some of that money, $25,000 or whatever, to Auburn Public Theater to produce events? I said, because when we produce events, we'll make earned income and that'll cover administrative. So that's what we did. The final year, this is a tragically interesting story, but in the final year, there was administrative error on their end. Someone in Albany assigned our grant to another organization that wasn't even qualified because they had Auburn in the, or they had Cuyahoga County in their name. They're trying to resurrect themselves, but that money was designated for them, but they couldn't even use it. They weren't even qualified to get the grants and the grants gateway. It's a whole thing with New York State. We had promised all these organizations the money. And so we literally had to go to each one of them and say, we're sorry, we got stiffed and we have to stiff you. And some of them had spent the money, right? So that's what happens in the grant world. You know, I spend my time trying to find money. It's crappy. It's crappy because I've been doing it for a long time. And there's really, I just want to talk for a minute about philanthropy, because as we begin this new era of our lives, because everybody has been shaken by this, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And I hope that we evolve better. Obviously, we hope that humanity just grows a little bit. And part of it is philanthropy. We've been doing this since 2005. Why should I go to the same foundations year after year? Don't you know what we do? You live here, you come to programming. If I could just spend more time making community relationships and programming and doing things right, we could do so much more for the community. But I spend 75% of my time writing grants and going to people, and they run when they see me because they know what I'm going to ask for. And there's all these other worthy causes here that, you know, we're not hospice, let's face it. You know, there's some worthy causes. But a whole generation of Albernians has now grown up experiencing the kids who did our programs, and we used to do a lot of theater stuff before the Merry-Go-Round decided to do some stuff here, and they should do musical theater because that's what they're good at, right? So, and dance companies, every time we got a dance teacher who developed it, they'd say, well, I'm opening my own studio. And then they took their students and they went out the door. So I figure we're an incubator, right? But for God's sake, we don't have, you know, most of the historic sites and cultural sites have an endowment. We do not. The Cuyahoga Museum has it, the Schweinfurt has it, the Seward has it, you know, the Emerson used to give them $300,000 a year, the Merry-Go-Round $300,000, and we're hat in hand every year. And so, but we're, as you see, we are not above doing what it takes. I serve you. I'm the delivery guy, right? I spent the last week on my hands and knees cleaning out stuff from 20 years ago. This is what's giving us the opportunity. I don't mind, I love it. And I love delivering because people are happy to see me and they give me money, and it saves on therapy because nobody else is that happy to see me, right? So what I want to say is that I'm kind of near the end of my career, right? Angela's and Janie, they're 10 years behind me. But I want to leave this place solid. And the lower level, do you know that we just finished, obviously, the upper level? The lower level is the DRI money. The first level was the Red Sea money, the Regional Economic Development Council grant. In the middle of it, Auburn decided to include us in their DRI. And they told us what they were going to give us. So we had to expand our project and our dreams. But that 700, which is woefully short, is going to put the marquee on the outside of the building. We now have a hallway so you can have valet parking and come into the theater or go downstairs. And downstairs is going to be a black box theater under the cafe space. And a black box theater simply means it's black and there's no fixed seating. You can move it around the way you want to. And there'll be mirrors and curtains. So you could do classes, you could do workshops, and you could do performances, right? And rehearsals. So that's going there. And then the rest of the space is the Boston room, seating 600 people or standing 600 or with banquet tables of about 275 with a catering kitchen. There'll be an elevator at the end of the hallway with a projection booth. And we can not only program for young people, because like the Palace or the Westcott, they go to the concerts where they want to stand. It's a certain kind of, you know, artists that need that kind of space. And we can also then make it available to the community for either donations or rentals, so that if you have a big event or a wedding, you don't have to be beholden to, not that there's anything wrong with this, because everybody needs to earn a living, but I'm saying that some people don't want to use a hotel caterer. They want to use their own. And they want to, and we've got a lot of people who need to make a living, Luke and Ed, and all these people who have great food. Why not make it available for them as well? So that will not only add to our sustainability, but it'll also add to the offerings that we can provide for the community. And the cafe, for example, this is a very interesting project, and this is based on Cafe at 407, which supports Ophelia's Place in Liverpool. It's a nonprofit that deals with body image issues and eating disorders. And Mary Ellen, who's wonderful, started it with John DeFrancisco's help. And it's in the front of their building. And it's a for-profit LLC that was created by the nonprofit that owns it. So on the nonprofit tax return, if anybody is an accountant, it's a disregarded entity on our tax return, and you're allowed to do that as a nonprofit. And so we have a management contract with them, and theoretically they'll pay the rent that we lost when Dennis Cedar moved out, and that will support, and all the tips and all the money that's above and beyond expenses it's donated to the theater. Okay. So our theory is that, and there's been quite a lot of tips, there hasn't been a lot of profit yet, but the tips we have to donate soon because the fiscal year ends at the end of August. But again, I'm not sitting around waiting for somebody to give us money. We're trying to create revenue streams that will allow us to do what we do. And frankly, I'm super proud of this. It took a long time. It's way over budget. We have a chef who quit Mirbeau to come here. He was the executive chef at Mirbeau. He owned Phoebe's. He was at Krebs. He was at the Country Club. And it was very stressful, but it worked out in his life. He wanted to tone down a little bit. And he was consulting with us, and we were so surprised. And he's come on board, and it's fantastic. It's great cafe food, and we're going to expand as we get our feet. We're very slow, as you know. I mean, we have to do it organically. I've been trying to get the painter to come back to paint this place for 6 freaking weeks. It's like, but everyone's very busy, right? And I just want to say that this is our situation. This is real. 15 years ago, I get a call from a friend at the Holiday Inn. I think it was Pat, who still works there. And he said, they're giving away the chairs because they're replacing the chairs at the Holiday Inn. Do you want any? I was like, great. And I had a truck at that time. I drove over there. I loaded 100 of these on my truck. We still use them 15 years later. They're breaking down or whatever. And then a very nice board member, Wendy LaDuca and Jeff LaDuca, said, well, you need some tables. So they gave us some money for some tables. Look at these lights. They're from the 1850s. These park cans we got from the Hangar Theater. We went down there and got them. And they're not efficient electricity wise. It's the same thing in the main stage, the sound, everything. I want to go and say, guys, we produce, we're a public. Let us have the money. We're not going to waste it. Just let us get LEDs for the, and you can get digital sound equipment. So I'm working with a nice young man with Jim Van Arsdale, this fellow, Sam Del Favre, who graduated, I think from Oneonta in sound. And he's helping me to research all the right digital sound equipment because, this is called the Snake here. And it's where you plug everything in and it's all bulky and it goes all over. The new systems are an Ethernet cord, one little cord, and then you plug everything into, and it's so simple and energy efficient, and we'll get there. We don't give up, but I'm getting to that point where I've always had a kind of a little bit of a sarcastic sense of humor, as you may remember. But I'm getting to the point where, with all due respect, I'm getting to the point where I'm just going, would you give us money and stop making me do hoops? Where do you think I'm going with it? We worked all through the pandemic. We kept this place going. We're in the 2 worst businesses. And frankly, I don't think it's over. I don't mean to bum you out, but it's my personal opinion that we've got a ways to go before we integrate it a little bit further. First of all, worldwide, there are places that are in the worst shape ever now. We are happen to be fortunate in this part of the country because even in other parts, and you know, not political or anything here. I just want to say that there's a virus, and you know, we have to deal with it in whatever ways. Either you're going to get it or you're not, and that depends a lot, I guess, on you, because the vaccine seems to have a good track record, but not everybody wants to get it. I have a worker here who has a medical condition, a young person, and they've chosen not to. So we have to be very careful, right? We have to wear masks when, you know, we're close and in close quarters. So we don't know what the future will be, but we did reschedule all of our big events for starting in September. We've got main stage concerts. I just saw there was a sold out concert, I know, in New York City. Was it Madison Square Garden or something? Yeah. I couldn't believe it, right? Because Kathleen Cuddy comes to I said, Kathleen, what are the rules? Because last I heard it was 33%. Like Jill, they couldn't want to only get 40 people because that's what they were told. So we don't know what's going on. It changes all the time. We'll get as many people as want to come that are safe, but it's in the air. So either it's going to be there or not, and you're going to either have a responsibility to protect yourself or not. There's only so much a venue can do with air handling or cleanliness for sure. So the future is unknown, but I think that I'm optimistic. I think whatever this short-term stuff is, we'll get through it. And you know, everyone has their opinion, and we're a little insular up here. Okay, I mean, I've only lived in New York City and Los Angeles before I moved here. So I really have, I know, it's a little bit of a culture shock. When I flew in, the airport was so small, the name of my airline was Fred's Plane. And we got stuck on the runway on a piece of gum. So, boom. So anyway, I won't charge you for that. So anyway, you know, it really took me a long time, and I don't know if you remember this, but when Angela and I were married, we had the Davos Pizza across the way. I didn't tell anybody I was in show business there, and because I had done it for so long, and this was a complete change for me, which I needed, and I left a very successful career there because it's just me, it's just my journey. It was the kids who recognized me from being on a lot of the Nickelodeon shows that I did, or Jurassic Park, whatever. And they would come in and they'd kind of look at me like, I don't make the connection. Why are you here, right? And then this is my favorite story. One day, this little kid, the mother drags the kid into the pizzeria. I'm working the counter, right? I'm right back to where I was. And they come up and she's like, would you please tell my son that you are not in show business, and then he should not lie. And, you know, the kid's looking at me and I kind of look, I said, well, actually, you know, yeah, I did. And the look on her face, and the kid's like, that was my funny. And then when my daughter was, we were champions for life, when she was little, she used to do, I guess, used to let them run around one night, you know, for an hour. They were just like banshees running around all the equipment there. And I remember I was waiting, and she was little, and I'm just waiting, and there's a group of young girls, and they're talking. And then it's almost like in Jurassic Park where the raptors look up and they go like that. Like one girl looked up and she saw me and she went, and they were like this, and they went down like that, and then they rushed over and they asked me for my autograph, which was so nice because nobody asked me for my autograph in Hollywood. I was a journeyman. I wasn't the star, and I made a living, right? But here, because it was such an anomaly, they came over and they wanted my autograph, which was so wonderful to me. Of course, I accidentally signed an IOU to someone, so I'm owing them. Those kids, they're so sneaky. But it was very, very nice. If anyone saw the Jim Thorpe story, one of my favorite movies, in the end, Burt Lancaster, he's trying to find himself, and he's a truck driver. He drives past the kids playing, what is it, baseball, baseball. And he comes over and he found himself, like they needed a coach, and there he was. That's kind of what I felt like at the end of my career is finally I was recognized after I'd done it all. Yeah, of course, nobody took my awards away, but I didn't win any. But it's a journey, and so we went from show business, and then I had the pizzeria. I had 3 of them. There was one in Jordan, and there was one in Union Springs. For 7 years, didn't say anything, and then through a feng shui consultation for the restaurant, Angela and I got the idea to open the theater, and so now I'm kind of back to my roots. And obviously, you guys know that over, if you've come to the theater over time, we've had a lot of people that we've had connections with in the show business world come and perform and visit. And it's really nice. And I'm in touch with, many people still, many of them very well known. And as a matter of fact, in the fall, we've partnered with Cayuga Community College to do the first annual Cayuga Film Festival. And it's a short film festival. Human rights is the theme. There's still a few more weeks to submit, and you could see it on our website or on Cayuga Festival. And basically, we want to give young filmmakers an opportunity to make films and submit. And the judges are our friends from Hollywood and New York, a lot of big producers and people like that, to give them exposure. And now I think we could do it live. We could have the live event because we're going to do it virtual, right? Yeah. So in November, we'll screen them, and we'll have a few prizes and things like that, and we'll see where it goes. It's like that's again, the more time we have, the more we don't sit around. We will do a lot of stuff as much as we can to get people in. I still feel that in the general Auburn community, there's a swatch of the population that either doesn't get us, doesn't know what nonprofit, or doesn't appreciate the diversity in programming that we do. I'm always really trying to be ecumenical where I tell Angela, because Angela has a certain bent. And her heart's in the right place. Oops. Did I do something?
No, I didn't break.
Okay, so do I owe you?
I got something to say.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Another one. I'm on to you. So, Angela, equal rights, diversity, both culturally and economically, is really what a nonprofit like us, that's what we're about. Affordable access. I don't want people not to come here because they don't like one thing we do. If you like Leanne Womack and you want to see her for $35 and sit 5 feet away from her, you got it. Suzanne Vega, you got it right there. But you also have Never Fight a Shark in Water, about a guy who was incarcerated for 35 years wrongly, who became a lawyer in prison and then got himself out. That's a play. He came here from Louisiana, to do it. That's part of it as well, because that's our life. And I always say that the beauty of this place is when you come to see a comedian, which is kind of the great equalizer, everybody likes to laugh. And when you're standing online and it's taken a long time to get a beer, which I'm sorry, but it does. And you have an African-American guy and you have a white guy, and they wouldn't normally have anything else to do, but they're standing online and they're just like, oh. And they're looking at they look at one another and they share that look like we're both in it together. That's it. Because the next time they're at Wegmans, there won't be the fear in their eyes, because they remember that they were both at the same event and they went through a similar experience. For me, that's it. That's bringing people together and dispelling the unknown. And I'm not saying there's not bad people all over the place, and no matter what you look like or whatever you do, but at least we can bring everyone together without any kind of filter over it. And we're secular. I mean, there's nothing there. It's just a place, and there's the event. It's affordable. It's right in your town. Do you want to come here or don't you? We can lead a horse to water, and we will continue to do that. Yes, sir.
So I've got a question to something you started off with. You were talking about kids from Booker T making TikTok videos, and then you said you got the studio there. If there was a local band that wanted to do a YouTube video, would they be able to come in and record that?
They most certainly can.
Yeah.
And we invested in what's called a Sling Studio, which allows you to use 4 iPhones or plugged-in cameras to shoot, and your computer becomes a TV switching station, and you can broadcast live or record. And we've done many of them in this room, because with a band, you need this much. But we have done many things downstairs in front of the green screen, and even if you make it on your own, it's free to broadcast. And we'll teach you how to edit. And yeah, we shot a couple of bit. Luke Mock shot a video here. He's a local young man who came out of the program. We do it a lot. And Jim and I have another idea about a regional music record label that we would do here with there's some wonderful talent. I mean, this region, you know, it's amazing when because I'm a wannabe amateur musician, but on the open mics, you know, everybody can play spoken word music or whatever, and you can play for your family, your friends. The recovery community gets up here, some of their poetry, and some of it's terrible, but it's okay. I tend to take a break during that time. But you know, look, you just have to give everyone an opportunity, and most people are not talented. You know, that's why when you see someone talented, you're like, oh my God. You know, but everyone has a right to express themselves, and we give them a right and the means to express themselves in some way. Did his reception here, so he could, you know, it was important to him, you know, and that's him. When the little kids ukulele group from one of the elementary schools came and wanted to perform for their parents, we let them come here, right? That's who we are. We are, the last night, we're open to suggestions. If there's a speaker, if there's a comedian, if there's a musician, if there's a play, you know, Angela is very open to that, especially also in the movies when we get to open them again. But the elevator is going to go right where the projection booth is. So we're reducing the projection booth. We're going to try not to have too much of a delay, but you know, we have to juggle. So I don't know, am I good?
You're good.
Do you have to say it? Yeah.
Gem.
Yeah.
It really
Well, thank you.
is a
Thanks.
gem. And for all that you put into this community and give it to people in this, you should be congratulated.
I should be wealthy.
And that's what that's. Well, understand that there's a number of us who work in philanthropy and we feel. And
Yeah.
know your pain.
Yeah.
All right. But my question is, I love the open mic.
Yeah.
So what is the thought about, are you going to bring that back?
That'll be one of the first thing we'll bring back. So I've been waiting, and I mentioned that I'm waiting for this guy to paint.
You need
because-
volunteers to come in?
Well, no, I mean, we have a contract, but,
Yeah.
and it's someone who used to work here. But when we're done with that and we put back up all the pictures and we get everything, we'll start it. So I'm hoping sometime this summer, but also we let go of everyone in our staff.
Oh,
So
That's
I'm
right.
working with a young man with this fellow Sam to come in to put it back together so he can run the sound for open mic, because we have major acts in the fall that we're gonna need sound and technical for. But yes, that is the first thing.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I don't know how old Herschel is now.
Heschel,
Herschel.
14.
14 years ago. Your daughter, my son were in the King and I.
Yes, I remember.
And so I had 4 rehearsals and 28 performances to share with Angela.
Yes.
As she was pregnant with your son.
Yes.
And she says, you know, we have this idea. And I think this is the idea. We are, and to echo you, we are so thankful and Auburn.
Well, you're welcome.
You are visionary. You work on a higher consciousness
Well,
than most everyone here.
I think I'm maybe
Not
unconscious.
everyone, not experience, but,
Yeah.
and
That's called
like,
love.
and you probably know who I'm gonna mention, Theater K. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to say, if there are people coming to Auburn, you wanna give them an Auburn gift, I'll be glad to give you complimentary copies.
Thank you.
Of Now We're Talking.
Thank you.
Or share a brief PowerPoint with original talking films,
Yes,
including one by Theater Case.
yeah,
So any of that, because we want to keep it growing and.
thank you. No, I appreciate it, and I appreciate the work you're doing with Ted Case. I was in that production as well, at the Merry-Ground, but I played an English guy and I had a mustache. It was a while ago, but Ed
Yes,
Sales,
I'm sorry.
when we first had the idea, we bought the building. You know, Angela obviously had grown up here, so, and I didn't know who Ed Sales was, but she called Ed. He was the first person to walk through. And he gave us his ideas about what it could be. Now, in his mind, which we did not know about, it was about 5 to 10 years early, but he was probably thinking about the musical theater festival.
Oh,
And the fact that if there was another venue, he could do that. Unfortunately, you know, it didn't work out for them. But yeah, you know, he was instrumental in kind of guiding us. He helped us with our sprung floor and some other things as well. So, yeah, it was a team effort for sure.
Anybody else? Well, it's funny you mentioned Ted Case. While I was sitting here, this piece of paper was sticking out of the wall. And it's a request from Ted Case to get his lights back.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna just, if you could just lift me up. I just want to say, we did get LED lights about 12 years ago. Sam Fuller, no, it's not Sam, his brother who passed away, Wayne Fuller, came in and said, oh, I have these lights I'm getting rid of. They're the first generation. So we bought those LED lights 12 years ago from Wayne. So there you go. And the stage we bought from his brother. They're just flats that we screwed together. We bought those from Sam Fuller 15 years ago. So everything you see, we have used, and obviously I'm the oldest thing here. So
No, no.
yeah, well, here, not.
Oh, not in the room, okay.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, all right.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Is there someplace if people want to donate to the Auburn Public Theater, you have information as far as
No,
website?
none whatsoever. Yeah,
Just you.
no, we do. There's a couple of ways, okay? If you go on our website, there's obviously a donation page and button that you could do that. We're about to have a fantastic fundraising raffle, which you would help us by buying a ticket. We've asked every downtown restaurant and cafe to, we're buying gift certificates from them all. And a couple of them have wanted to donate it, but I think it's like 100 or 150 to each restaurant. It's like a $1,500 value, and we're giving that away in a raffle. And the tickets are $20, and we're just rolling that out. That's a pretty good deal. So we're going to be doing that, and then obviously, you know, there's printed materials, but I think online is probably the easiest. And obviously, we're nonprofit. Yeah, we reduced our salaries over this time. We cut our salaries in half. And we weren't making that much before. I teach at the college. Angela has her essential oils business. You know, Janie has half of her money from the state administration. So we've gotten by. And first of all, there was nothing to spend your money on for a year anyway. So, you know, just in my house in my pajamas, which by the way, I loved. I don't know if I'm sharing too much, but I love working at home. So anyway, yeah, we're always there for your support, and we always are looking for volunteers. You can, you know, house manager, ticket takers, things like that. And then any ideas, you know, we're open.
Opportunities to donate. Now, I don't remember if it was for the Davo pizza or when you opened this up.
Okay.
I happened to run into Angela someplace and we were talking, and I said, congratulations on what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. If you need anything, let me know. And she jokingly said to me, well, we could use the cash register. I said, I have a brand new cash register that I don't need anymore because I just didn't put in a point of sale system.
Yeah.
And I gave it to her. So I can't remember what it was for,
Yeah.
whether it was this or the
Well,
other.
it's probably, no, it wasn't for that. It was probably.
Probably for the theater.
Yeah, and then people have done that. In the back, I mean, everything has a story. You could be here for 4 hours, but very quickly about a donation. So Bill Hecht, anyone know who Bill Hecht is?
Yeah.
So Bill calls me up about 10 years ago, and he goes, you know, my mother had this old piano, and I'm getting married again, and we're rebuilding our house out in Union Springs. Do you want this piano? And I said, I don't know. So Peter Mack at the time said, oh, I know about pianos. So it says that about everything. So he goes, the funniest thing was that he picked me up and goes, well, I'll go out there with you. Well, Bill Heck lives, he picks me up in this Maserati that's this far off the ground. Bill Heck lives in an unpaved driveway. I love Peter's face as he's driving that over to Bill's house. It turns out that it was built it was a Steinway that was left there for, 40 years, whatever. It turned out to be like a $50,000 piano. And Peter, to his credit, he finds this guy at the Catskill Piano Museum, and he pays to have it transported. And then Bill goes, "How much do you need to fix it up?" And I said, "Well, about 10 grand. Writes me a check for 10 grand. So we have a beautiful 1916 Grand Steinway that George Winston has played and Mark Doyle. We have everybody play it and they love it. And then Charlie Lynch calls me up and he goes, "I got one," which was the daddy. What do you need now? Lights? Oh, Brian's not around? Okay, I'm gonna finish up. See, I'm double duty. He goes,
Stage right.
yeah, so Charlie Lynch, we wanted, it's still back there because I don't have the 10 grand. All right, thanks.